All right, everyone, welcome to the Bowmen Podcast. This is Paul coming at you from Virginia. We got Troy Forrester down here in Ohio,
What's
Greenlight
going on,
Outdoors, our
everybody?
co-host. We have Leigh here from Tooth of the Arrow Broadheads, our very special guest. Hi, Leigh. Say hi to everybody out there.
Hey guys, how you doing?
We're doing fantastic, fantastic. So we got a good one coming your way today, everybody. We've been chatting back and forth on IG with Leigh and his products, and I know my son and I have been shooting your broadheads here for weeks now, putting them through the test, and we're huge fans. So it's an honor to have you on and promote your brand. And this podcast, we're going to sit here, we're going to chat about broadheads, we're going to chat about where you come from and why. And then we're going to get into a little bit about hunting and what you do. And I want to find out about that lion that you showed us, like that way. No, that way.
There it is.
I want to find out more about that. So, Troy,
Yes,
what's
sir.
going on in your world down there, man?
Hey, just the same stuff, just another day, just plugging away, trying to get in better shape, keep up with my wife and burn off this winter weight that everybody likes to put on.
Yeah.
But no, everything's going
His
good.
winter weight is like an ounce. He's like 98% lean,
Ah,
and his wife is ripped, and
that
he's got a beautiful family. So good.
like we talked about last time, that first form outdoors competition, I just feel like it's sneaking up on me. So I don't want to let you guys down. I gotta do what I can to get ready.
Man, it's all about what you can do. So Troy has been he made it to the top 7 or 8 of the first form outdoors competition. So he's heading out to Missouri, right?
Yes,
You
sir.
said
Yep. St.
Missouri,
Louis.
or
Sweet.
out in May to do the competition there. I set him up with some new arrows, and I have an archery shop here in Virginia that I run. So we handle all of that. So he's been working hard to represent us well here at the Bowmen out there. So
Yeah, we'll give it a shot. We'll give
yeah.
it a shot.
Sweet man.
Uh,
You're probably one of the only bow hunters, or if not the only one I know who's training hard in February.
Yeah, they're out there for
True.
sure. I know they're all the different competitions like the 3D competitions and stuff this summer and all that. I've seen some people out running around, but I don't
Yeah.
know. I feel my age, but I'm working at it.
Well, I signed up for the TAC challenge in Pennsylvania. I signed my son, my wife, my daughter up for it. So we're going to be in Seven Springs shooting that. So yeah, and then we put in our final bid on our elk outfitter today out in Utah. So if that happens to come to fruition fully, then I'll be joining Troy in his gym in Ohio.
There we go. We'll have
So
to get some altitude training in somehow.
yeah, absolutely. It's called "Sit on My Chest and Let's Run up up the hill" or whatever that is. Isn't there like a mask you can get that like
Yeah,
holds
yeah,
back your?
yeah. They
Yeah,
do have like different diaphragms and stuff that go in mass to cause you to have that extra stress on your lungs and
yeah,
kind of like high altitude training without like a chamber or anything. So
yeah.
I
So
ran tonight. I have a weighted vest that has like 30 pounds of weight, and I
nice.
Jeez.
ran for 30 pounds of weight and jogged for 30 minutes. So my watch said I went 2.5 miles, but I don't know how accurate that is on an actual treadmill.
Yeah.
But it's the
Do
best
you
I've
wake up?
felt and been able to do it lately. So
Do you wake up in the morning and feel like you just got in a fight the night before after doing that?
some days it depends on how many ibuprofen I take before I go to bed. I got
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
learn from the past. No,
Yeah.
I've been doing pretty good lately. Honestly, been feeling a lot better, a lot stronger. We had a bunch of, which everybody does this time of year, but my kids, I now have 3 kids, and it's like it was just a round door of sicknesses coming through my house since like December. So I
Yeah.
finally last 2 weeks really, I finally felt like health wise better. The whole time I've been, trying to work out and trying to do things, but when you don't feel good, like health wise, then it's just miserable. So
Yeah.
I'm finally, knock on wood, kind of breaking through that cloud of,
Yeah.
wintertime sicknesses and school sicknesses. And I don't know what it is with little kids, those of you out there that have little kids, but pink eye is like rampant in little kids. And I don't get it, but it's
Oh, they
horrible.
like lick their fingers and they rub their
touch
eyes and
touch
they touch
everything.
everything and they rub their face.
Yeah.
But you'll get used to it. I don't know. Leigh, do you have kids?
No, no, I'm way too young to have kids.
Yeah.
I
But
still am a kid.
you never know. You never know.
Yeah.
So I figured I'd ask. But no, you'll have the luxury of understanding that one day. But yeah, it's going around here too. Our kids, I got 9-year-old twins, and they're sick every other day. The neighbors are sick, their friends are sick, and then before you know it, you're sick. And I got to
Yeah.
say one thing though, you have never been sick like you've been sick when you get sick from your kid. Like
Right.
whatever they bring home, they have the sniffles, they cough, they do whatever. It knocks you on your ass so hard that it's like your
Yeah.
wife's like, "What are you, a little bitch? Like you can't do this? Like you have a man cold, and here I'm like
Yeah.
dead in bed."
And it's like you battle, you go through things like at your age, Leigh, like or whatever, when I was younger, puke, all the nasty things in life, you're like, okay, that's enough. And then as a parent, your kids get sick and you just accept all those nasty things you got to deal with, cleaning up after them,
Yeah.
taking care of them. They're coughing and hacking in your face for like a week. And the whole time you're like, wow, this is amazing. Like, I feel okay. I'm doing good. You finally get them through the sickness. And it's like the day they feel good, you get sick. And then you're miserable, like you said, and you're down. You're like, I'm down for the count. Like, I can't move.
Yep.
But
It happens.
we're getting through it. So, yeah, doing good. Doing good.
Good. Well, we're on the flip side of it. Spring has sprung here in Virginia. I don't know about where you guys are. Leigh, where are you at?
I'm up in Canada. I'm in Calgary, Alberta, and spring has not sprung.
Yeah. You still have 17.5 feet of snow, or
The snow isn't too bad, but this morning it was, I don't know in Fahrenheit, but it was minus 21 Celsius, and that's
Wow.
cold.
Yeah, it's cold.
that's still cold. Yeah. It was
Yeah.
so it was 71 here today in Virginia and rainy. My tulips have bloomed, so by tomorrow they should be out. I'll send you guys a
Oh.
picture of them just to make you feel bad about yourselves. So I'm from like middle New York, and like an hour north of the city, so like we know snow and bad weather and all that. But we moved down here about 4.5, 5 years ago, and to be able to have spring in like the middle of February is amazing. It's like, all right, turkey season, let's go. Let's start getting out there, doing whatever. But I don't mean to rub it in, boys, but
it was about a 35-degree temperature swing or so, 30-degree temperature swing or so. From this morning was nice and warm here, and now it's like in the 30s, 20 outside. It was almost 60 degrees this morning when I went to
Yeah.
work, and it's snowing when I came
Yeah.
home.
We're getting that tonight. It's gonna be a little cold, but then it'll be warm again the weekend. So, but yeah, so good things there. So Leigh, Tooth of the Arrow, man, I gotta ask, where'd the name come from?
I didn't name the company. It's just a little bit of background. It's just me and the owner. The owner is Luke. He's an American. He lives in Florida. Him and his dad started the company. Tooth of the Arrow is the translation of some old Indian word for broadhead.
Okay,
Okay.
So
understandable.
that's where they got that.
That sounds great.
Nice.
That's pretty
Yeah.
cool. I wonder do you know what that word is?
I have no idea.
Yeah. Yeah,
At
we'll
least
have
you're
to look
honest.
that up. Yeah.
It got lost somewhere along the way.
Yeah.
It got lost in translation, so the only thing you need to know is Tooth of the Arrow. There you
Yeah,
go.
That's
there you
right.
go. Lost in translation. That's awesome. So you're up in Canada. He's down in Florida. So how's this working out from a business standpoint? So give me a little bit of logistics here and what's going on.
Thankful for the internet.
Yeah.
So everything's American about the company except for me. Luke is from Minnesota. His family owns a manufacturing business there. So they started they manufacture a ton of steel products, and then they started, Tooth of the Arrow as a passion project, which now became his full-time gig. He moved to Florida, good weather, taxes and whatnot.
No
But still
retirement
has the
fee.
manufacturing team running things in Minnesota, and then hired me
Okay.
on to kind of run everything else. And I will never leave Alberta because the hunting is too good. So
I got to agree
we're
with
all over the
that.
map.
Awesome. That's awesome. So you said Minnesota made, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Minnesota made. So a little bit of background here is solid steel production. So basically they're taking a 2-inch, 2.5-inch solid steel, tube and manufacturing down the broadhead out of that. So there's no welding the blades on, there's no welding the screw into the ferrule, there's no screwing the tip on, there's no screws, there's no nothing. It's one piece held together. And for me as an archery shop owner, an avid huntsman, and using the products over the past couple of weeks, I got to say, man, they are, first of all, they're razor sharp. like right out of the pack, you got to be very careful with them. So how are you guys hitting that edge? How are you getting that?
It's all just fine machining on a well heat treated steel. I mean, we go to Rockwell 45, which is a, you know, some people, you know, the steel nerds get upset with you about whatever
Yeah,
type of
they
steel you're
always
using
will.
in the
Trust me.
Rockwell.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can't please them all, but we found that that's a perfect balance between holding an edge and sharpenability. So we want them to be reusable. Um, but you know, I shot tooth of the arrow for a good 2.5 seasons. A few years ago, I did a lot of traveling around the world, and I still do some traveling, but slowed down now with work. But I was doing so many hunts and trying tons of broadheads, and I tried tooth of the arrow, and they were the first one that stuck for me. And I shot him without ever talking to Luke for like 2.5 years before I ever started working for him. So uh, I always like to give that little piece of background just so people know I'm not a walking salesman. I really
Yeah,
just love
absolutely.
broadheads.
And actually to like kind of piggyback on that, so I'm not a walking salesman either, is how I found out about you all is in my archery shop, I have a bunch of clients that come in and they swear by your broadhead. Like I have one guy, he shot six different deer this year with it. Same broadhead, resharpened it. So they come in and I was like, what are these broadheads? Like I've heard of you all, I've seen it. Um, and then they're like, oh, it's Tooth of the Arrow. I'm like, okay, I've heard that name. And then my buddy, ironically, he just moved out to Minnesota as well from New York. His wife's family is from there and he's been shooting them from years. And he's like, bud, he's like, you own an archery shop. How the hell you not know about these things? Like, he's like, I've been shooting them forever. And so it kind of came full circle. And then I just reached out to you and I said, man, we got to talk about this. So, I mean, there's a lot of avid followers and users out there that swear by your product. And I got to say that the two things that they swear, well, I got maybe three things they swear by is one is the compact size and the look. They love that it's not like a tin can hanging out the end of your arrow and, it's matte black, it's small, it's reduced, it's aerodynamic, right? It flies very, very similar to a field point. I mean, I've been placing them like if your bow is tuned, I will say like if you're shooting fixed blades, you got to have a tuned bow. So, paper tuning out to 20, 30 yards, like making sure you're good. They're flying side by side right there. Well, where's my camera? Whoop, there it is. With field points and impact. And then the third thing is I gotta say the penetration. So I've taken a bunch of broadheads in the shop from different fixed blades, mechanicals, and everything, and they are getting almost an inch more penetration out of the same bow and the same target than any other broadhead. So talk to me a little bit about that. Is that the design factor that's causing that? What is making that happen?
Well, a big part of it is the compactness, and the compactness serves multiple purposes. I mean, first of all, when you have that much weight that's kind of condensed towards the center of the arrow, it's just going to fly better, right? A field point flies perfect because 100% of its weight is in line with the arrow shaft. So we try to make a broadhead that's as close to that as possible. We've heard people say they're like a field point with blades, and that's really what we're going for. The compactness helps a lot with penetration as well. And we use a really strong steel that allows us to have a fairly thin blade for what it is, being machined out of a solid bar of steel, right? So that helps a lot with the penetration. But yeah, man, compactness is the name of the game for what we're trying to do. And gore sells, 2-inch cut diameters and that stuff sells, but it's not necessary for killing in any way. And I could go on about
No.
that, but
Yeah.
that's really our philosophy.
Awesome. And then the interesting thing, the impact hole that's left by this broadhead is almost like a square because of the way that it is. It takes, like if you look at the G5 Megameat, they're known for the triangle that comes out of theirs. Yours is like a perfect square. When you see the holes of impact, it takes that chunk out of there, and the blood is just second to none.
Yeah,
I've heard
man, you
nothing
won't.
but amazing blood trails.
Yeah, you won't find like a 1-inch cut broadhead, fixed blade broadhead that's going to bleed the way a compact 4 blade does.
Yeah.
It's and then we have the XL too, and those, I mean, those things pour blood. So
Yeah, absolutely. Um, so with the XL, so that is giving you what is it now? 2-inch cut
Inch and 3/16 is
Okay.
the diameter across. Yeah. So, those are really good for mostly your compound guys. You don't see any crossbow guys shooting those just because the speed thing, right? But
Yeah.
I personally shoot the 1 inch. I just am such a believer in penetration. I want to get a pass through in everything I shoot. I love a small broadhead.
Yeah. I agree with that. I'm a believer in that. It's funny. I tell Troy and everyone that comes up to the shop, all the black bear I've shot, I have 4 of them that I've shot. They were all with 55 grain rockets. They were 3/4 inch cut diameter. Like, you put it in the pocket, it blows right through it, and they die in 20 yards. So, that small cut diameter, that fast arrow that just punches right through is going to give you that any day of the week. Um, so I guess circling back a little bit to the start of the company, it started as a hobby project. So how did they just one day say, okay, I'm going to sell these, or how'd that come about?
Well, they started like the intention was to sell them at the beginning, and I just
Okay.
don't think they knew how big they would get. And it, you know, just really took off, and that to the point where he needed to hire me, and he just found me through at that point I was on the pro staff, um, just taking a lot of pictures and whatever. And I was in school at the time, so I just started working part time, and that's kind of where there's almost two versions of Tooth of the Arrow. There's two eras, right? And that's really where era two began, is when Luke and I took it on together, and introducing a whole bunch of new products now, and yeah, things are going.
Yeah. So what are the new products that you're launching now? What's kind of coming down the pipe?
Well, the one that just came out was the two blade single bevel.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I had a heavy handed designing that one, and that thing is it's overkill for most things, to be honest. Like, I shot a whitetail with it this year just to see what would happen, and I put
Yeah.
it through both scapulas, and it went like another 25 yards. And it was just
Wow.
the arrow went another like 25 yards. It was absolutely overkill for that, but a lot of guys have been killing elk with them. The penetration is just nuts on those things, and we got a couple more things in the pipe that you guys will find out about real soon.
Awesome. Well, that's great to hear. The expansion is there. Is a lot of times you see smaller, up and coming broadhead companies, is like the development kind of stops after a while. So to be able to see different versions, different, new things coming down the pipe is fantastic. But it's really hard to beat that first product. Troy, you got anything
So
for Leigh in
I
regards
was
to
gonna
this?
ask. So we've talked about it a handful of times on this show, but and just throughout our different discussions with people, but the archery industry is one of those of like traditions almost, so whatever your dad or your friend taught you when you came in is what and if you came in shooting rage, then that's all you want to shoot, or if you came in shooting a Matthews bow, then that's all you want to shoot. How does Tooth of the Arrow kind of differentiate themselves from the competition, and how do you push that from your end to get people willing to try something new when their whole trophy is on the line?
Yeah, man. I mean, that's a tough thing, especially in the world, in the hunting world in particular. I feel like the hunting world is behind on the internet, if you know what I mean. Like, I talked to a shop somewhere in the States the other day. I was gonna send him our new catalog, and he said he doesn't even have a computer, right? There's some like this, the archery industry, it's not that bad everywhere, but it lags,
Yeah.
right? So we're out on as many platforms as we can, and trying to put broadheads in as many people's hands as we can. And the big thing we do is, money back guarantee. If you shoot them and you don't like them for whatever reason, it doesn't matter. If you don't like them, we'll give you your money back. So, when we believe in a product like that, I feel like that's all we can do, because, especially in this economy, I don't expect people to just drop money on something and hope it works and you're screwed if it doesn't. So,
No, that's good. Yeah, that's real good. The other thing, I was kind of doing a little internet stalking myself throughout the last week or so once Paul told us we were going to get to talk to you guys. And I noticed on your guys' Instagram page, you have it linked right on the front there that Joe Rogan was talking about Tooth of the Arrow broadheads on some big hunt he was going on. Has that been a pretty interesting thing to get hands in, some of those high, I guess I'd say high name people? Have you guys had any other good hunts? I know we were speaking about the lion on the wall behind you, but how did that all play out?
well, Joe just like contacted us. I woke up to a DM from him one morning, and he just
Yeah.
that was totally organic. We never paid him, we never sent him anything, and
That's
he
awesome.
just was really into the product. And it's tough. I mean, something like that is just so big for any business. I
Right.
mean,
Oh
how
yeah.
many businesses can credit however much of their success to Joe Rogan? Like, we're forever thankful for that few minutes we got on the podcast. But um, a big thing in getting our name out there too is just the traveling I do. Like you talk about with the Lion, and I'm in my trophy room. You can't see it, but I got all sorts of stuff around here. Just spending time at camps and give a guy a broadhead to take home, and the face-to-face interaction goes further than anything in this world.
Yeah.
And so you said
Absolutely.
you were from Alberta, Canada, right?
Yeah.
And you mentioned you were in school when they first started. You were still in school when Toothy Darrow and you were initially getting together. But what's a little bit of your background? You said you did a lot of traveling, hunting. Like, how did that come about? Have you just done it, as a child with your family, or how did that all start?
Yeah, my dad's a big time mountain sheep hunter. Like, he's
Wow.
practically only spends half the time in the country. I think he's all over the world chasing sheep and goats. He's got 48 or 49 sheep species now, right? So when I
Holy.
was young, I was lucky to tag along with him on a lot of hunts, and where the hunting opportunities were available, I got to hunt. And so that was, I'm very fortunate to have grown up that way, just seeing those parts of the world I've seen with him.
That's awesome.
Awesome. Is he a bow hunter or rifle or?
No, he's never shot a bow in his life.
Ah.
You know, he says that if he shot a bow, he wouldn't have even half the animals he has. And I say, yeah, that's the point.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. That is true. Man, the animals I would have killed if I had a rifle in my hand at times. Whew.
Or a
Oh,
grenade.
me too.
Yeah, or a bazooka.
Yeah. Well,
No,
they
that
say the most dangerous hunter is a bow hunter with a rifle.
Right.
I can see that. Yeah.
Yeah. You
You
got
got
all
all.
those skills, to get up close, quiet, and all the
Yep.
precision things, and then you can reach out and get them. So that's
Yeah,
awesome.
but the pure rifle hunters don't like it when you say that.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we all got to kind of get over that crap, It's we're all hunters. We need to protect
Yeah.
our sport because it's going to be taken away just as quickly as it came at times. So as long as we can joke about it and be humble about it, that's awesome. But
Yeah.
everybody out there listening, I don't care. We always say it on this podcast. We always will. We don't care if you use a bow. We don't care if you use a grenade launcher, a missile. Like, if I can use a bazooka and go hunting, I'd try it once.
Yep.
I mean, hell, like, something good to come out of it. I hope. Maybe I'll fall out of the tree or whatever. But we just got to keep it out there and keep our sport alive. So awesome. So let's talk a little bit about I got to get into this lion hunt, man. I'm big on lion hunting right now.
Yeah.
Like I said earlier, I put a video out of us chasing some lions in Utah with dogs, and I put that out there. It was pretty exciting. And so we're looking at purchasing an outfitter out in Utah at Elk and Mule Deer camp, and um, pretty close to us. We do a lot of lion hunting around there, and I haven't gotten one yet. I've gone once, and but the experience is just unbelievable. Like, I never thought that I would, like, I don't know. I'm mixed on hunting. Like, I love whitetail hunting. I love black bear hunting. Elk hunting's like I love it. Like, that's just, if I could pick one thing to do the rest of my life, it would be elk hunting. We shot a moose this year, but lion hunting, like, I never thought I'd like it because, okay, the dogs chase it, and I know it's heritage and all that, and it's experience, and they put up a tree. What would I feel? And I listened to Cameron Haynes' podcast a lot, and he said, kind of the same thing. Like, I don't know how I would feel about shooting something out of a tree like that, right? But then when you see the whole experience in person, right, and you catch a fresh track in the snow, and then you're chasing it down, and then you see these dogs work, like, they love it, man. They're just like, they're baying away, running around, and they have no fear. And it's like, holy crap, it's like going on a roller coaster. And for me, that's the excitement of it. But tell me a little bit about your experience with it, and obviously you were successful, so.
Well, yeah, man. I mean, hunting with dogs is so much fun. I've shot 3 or 4 bears with dogs in BC, because in BC you hunt them just like cats
Okay.
with dogs. And then I shot that cougar. That was the first animal I ever killed with a bow. I was like 13, I think, when that happened.
Really?
Emptied a whole
Wow.
quiver on that thing.
I did that on my moose this year, but hey.
Oh, it happens. It happens, and we got to own up to it, right?
Yes, sir.
but no, man, I love hunting with dogs. When I was hunting in BC a few years ago for black bear, these guys I was with, and they just love their dogs, right?
Oh
They're
yeah.
like, they know they're putting them in danger, but the dogs love it. They love their dogs. You know, I think that the non-hunting public has a really bad perception of the of the dog and human relationship in hunting. But anyways, they put a GoPro on one of his dogs, and they ended up tracking a grizzly, and they had this
Holy
grizzly
crap.
bait up on the ground, and I shit you not, man, this dog was biting this grizzly's ass, trying to interrogate him and swatting at him, and then go right to his face and be yapping right in his face. They have just absolutely no fear. It's
Yeah,
incredible.
it's unbelievable. You said it right, man. I mean, like, there's not a better love than a dog runner and his dogs. Like, they just love them to the end of the earth, and they take care of them better than they probably take care of themselves. But those things, man, they're just, they have no fear. Like, I don't understand it. Like, you said it right there. You know, you got a 1,200 pound, 1,300 pound grizzly bear, and they just go at it like it's nothing. You know, and even thinking about my elk hunt a couple years ago, I had a 2 pound Jack Russell tracking the elk after we shot it, you know, blood dog. And he was like barking at this thing, running through its legs, like gnawing on its ankles. Like, he had no fear in the world, and they just love it. It's like they get off on it.
I
So
think
you were able.
you
Go
hit it
ahead.
perfectly, Leigh, with the human, the owner and the dog relationship. I grew up in Kansas, like upland bird hunting, pheasants and quail. So I don't know if you ever had any experience doing any of that stuff, but similar idea. You have bird dogs that they don't obviously chase anything up a tree, and you hope that they point and don't spook the bird, before you get close enough to shoot it. But I mean, I can remember as a little kid walking all day and these dogs just working and pointing and looking for the birds and bringing and retrieving the birds. And it's just like when you see someone that is that connected with their animal and has spent that much time training them and working with them and keeping them healthy and doing all those things throughout the dog's life, to put it in a position to enjoy the hunt also, it's just amazing. Because I can remember we would hunt and handlers would have to put the dogs away. They'd actually have to take the dogs and put them in the truck and give them a break because the dogs were just so excited and so happy to be out there running that they're like, look, they're going to literally run themselves to death. So we'll give this one a break, and we'll take another one out for a couple hours, and then we'll come back and we'll switch them or whatever. So seeing that interaction, I would imagine it's got to be very similar with the type of dogs that run these different hunts, but it's awesome.
Oh yeah, man. I mean, you go on the internet and you search up like the hardest dog breeds to have and whatever, and it's always German short hair pointers and Vizslas and these types of
Mm-hmm.
dogs that are hunting dogs. Yeah, they're tough to have if you're not taking them hunting. You have to
Yep.
fulfill them, right?
Yep.
Yep.
And same with these hounds. The non-hunting public, you'll hear a lot of stuff. How could you put your dog in that dangerous position? That's what they want to do. They're
Yep.
animals. You're letting them do their job.
Yep.
Absolutely.
And that's exactly what you said. They're letting you. I actually had a Vizsla growing up, and my grandpa had a German short hair. And
Oh,
exactly
nice.
like you said, that Vizsla that I had growing up, she was a good like quail dog, especially. But that's what they want to do. They want to work, and you have to occupy their mind, or they get destructive, or they get crazy, or they don't listen. And then same for everybody. Knows that Labrador Retrievers, just an
Yeah.
amazing family dog, an amazing working dog, in every different aspect you can think of. But yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, I don't mean to go on like a big dog tangent here, but I have a whippet, right? They're like a half-size greyhound. So and
Oh,
he
and
needs to
yeah, yeah,
be
yeah. I know what they are.
he's the coolest dog. He's so fast. But he needs that to be fulfilled, right? Like I can't let him go out and chase rabbits, although he wants to, right? Sight hound, he sees one. There's nothing I can say to him that'll calm him down. But I've got him into frisbee so that he can have that,
Oh,
lock
nice.
his eyes on the target and run as hard as he can and catch something just to fulfill him like that.
That's
That's
awesome. That's
awesome.
what you got to do. That's
No,
Yeah,
pretty
but
that's
still
sweet.
those are the
not as good as
conversations we
letting
want
him
to
kill a
have,
rat.
though. We want to talk about obviously tooth of the arrow, broadheads. We want to talk about hunting, but we want to bring up the real things. Like you can hear it
Yep.
in somebody's voice when they talk about something that they are passionate about. Like when
Yep.
you guys go on X, Y, and Z hunts and you see these dogs work, it sparks a little bit of passion inside of you. You know what I mean? So that's awesome that we can bring it up and we can share that with people so that if they do have a negative impact, maybe once they listen to this, they'll think twice. You know what I mean? And they'll go look at for themselves, or they'll go try and
Hmm.
interact some other way.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
no, I like that. I totally agree.
Absolutely. So let's focus back on that lion that you got up there. So what is it,
Oh
a
yeah.
full mount or come
No,
on,
I
let's
just
let's pan over. I want to see it.
got
I
a
gotta see it. Ooh, a
just a
shoulder mount.
shoulder.
Yeah, that's cool.
That's pretty sweet.
Yeah,
Nice with the
I was
snow.
like I said, I was 13 when I shot that animal, so I wasn't getting a life size mount, of course. I didn't pay for that mount. My dad gave me a shoulder mount. Um, but no,
Memories that'll
that
last a
was
lifetime right there.
oh, it'll last forever. I love that cat. It was Pope and Young. Didn't know what that meant at the time, but thankful now. And
So that's
but
skull, is it skull width on cats or
yeah, width and then length, and you add them
okay.
together.
Okay, great. So similar to bear.
Exact same spare. Yeah.
Great. Awesome. So now obviously when you're hunting and you go out now, you said you shot tooth of the arrow a couple years before you got involved with it and everything. What was the point? What was the tipping factor that drew you to that broadhead as a consumer, right? Did you see it somewhere? Were you exposed to it? What got it in your hand as a natural consumer?
I did a lot of research and just I'm kind of one of those like I like to find the small archery companies and see what the little guys are doing and this innovative stuff that you
Yeah.
don't see just in Cabela's, right? So I'd always been researching that, and I had learned what I didn't like in a broadhead, and that was aluminum. I don't think aluminum has a place in a broadhead because it just bends so easily. Um, and I didn't like moving parts, be it a mechanical, which I've shot a lot of animals with mechanical, so and I think they have a place, but I just kind of checked everything on my list of it. It didn't have the things I didn't like. So my first hunt was just a whitetail in Alberta. I just shot a doe here um, out of my tree stand, and I shot this doe, and she ran maybe 15 yards and started doing the wobble. Right, great feeling. And then I went and picked up my arrow, and I couldn't believe it, but I had somehow, in the heat of the moment, well, and even before that at my truck, put one of my practice tooth of the arrow broadheads on my arrow. So completely dull, like duller than a butter knife. And I accidentally shot a deer with that thing, and it went right through her, and she went like 12 yards. So
Wow.
that's what hooked me in the first place.
Yeah. And I gotta say that's gotta take a lot of shots to do because I probably got 500 through one head right now and I can still shave my hair with it. So it's into a block target. So it's that's pretty crazy. And that was the original 1 inch compact one.
That was the XL
Uh,
vented.
XL vented. Okay.
Yeah, and I have a big sand pit that I shoot into because I can't lose an arrow like that. So this broadhead, I shot it hundreds of times into sand, and that's why it's completely dull. I just couldn't believe that.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I learned my lesson. I need to check my
Yeah.
arrows better, but
So I got a question on the vented versus non-vented. I have my opinions as an archery tuner and tech, but tell me a little bit on the I guess the mechanical side of it, the engineering side of it. What's the reasoning behind having a vented?
well, vented is just more forgiving, right? So your average guy who doesn't have his spine part perfectly matched, or it bows a little out of time, hasn't been checked in a while, arrow rests off, whatever. Those are going to be more forgiving. You're going to work for more people. My experience, like I have a shop here, so my bow is dialed. It's what I do, and my experience is that they fly identical as far as I can shoot if your
Mhm.
setup is in check. But for sure, the vented is geared towards higher speeds for sure. Crossbows allows wind to pass through them, and that makes them fly better. But the nice thing is if your bow is in check and you can shoot a solid as accurately as a field point, you're going to get potentially quieter flight, in theory at least, and better penetration.
Got it. I would agree. So, in
Yeah.
your opinion, being an archery shooter and everything, with the size of your broadhead and being four blade, would you recommend a three fletch or a four fletch?
I like four fletch for everything.
Okay.
I just think it's more stable and it's fun to build your own arrows.
Mhm.
And I mean, I don't believe a vein alignment matters at all. I think four fletch is just superior in every way.
I agree. So there's thinking out there, right? And I believe this to an extent that the size of your vein, the height of it needs to be at least, and we said this on our last podcast, at least the size of one side of your broadhead. right? In order to make the accuracy, and basically it's steering with the back instead of the front, right?
Mhm.
So the difference with a four fletch is you're breaking that pattern now, right? So now you can potentially get away with a slightly lower profile four fletch and still get that steer out of the back because of the extra spin that is there with it. Do you agree with that or no?
Yeah, I do agree. And, just to carry it on, you can shoot with blazers, for example, the most common vein in the world. You can have a three fletch or a four fletch with all blazers, and that four fletch is going to be less impacted by wind. It's going to hold better. It's going to fly better at high speeds. Like there's nothing you don't get out of it. I put six veins on an arrow in some testing a while ago, and Dudley did that on his YouTube channel
Yeah.
too. I did it with white, and it looks like a golf ball flying through the air. Just unbelievable flight until like 40 yards and it dive bombs.
Yeah,
But it just proves the point kind of on a bigger scale.
absolutely. So I've been big on, and I set Troy, up with this for his competition arrows, is that lower profile, like 2.3 inch four fletch, out there, and you can do anything with that. We're big on reaching out and touching them. Like if I got to shoot 70 yards or 80 yards, I have that capability to that. And that four fletch just gives you that long range stability, that I just feel that you don't kind of get that times with a three fletch out there. So,
Yeah, I totally agree. And I like reaching out too. I don't hunt, but I practice out to 100, and you notice it. You shoot them side by side, you notice it. The four
yeah,
fletch will just group tighter.
Can
absolutely.
you talk
But
about the
that's not to
different?
say three fletch are bad. For those of
No,
you
not at
out there
all.
who aren't fletching your own arrows and don't have the time or whatever. I mean, more than half the animals in my shop here were shot with a three fletch factory fletched arrow before I started my own stuff. There's absolutely nothing
All
wrong with
these,
that.
Right.
every one of them, three fletch. And that has its place, right? So when I'm hunting here in Virginia, and we have our own property, and Troy's come hunting here, like you're lucky if you can shoot 30 yards. You had a 32-yard shot on your beautiful buck here. Like, maybe you could have got a 40-yard if you wanted to, but there's always something in the way. So, having a larger veined three fletch for that shorter distance is just going to give you a little bit more, in my opinion, it's going to give you that more correction sooner. And you don't need the extra four fletch to go out there. So like if I know if I'm going elk hunting out in Utah or Colorado, whatever, I'm throwing a four fletch on there. Like it's just what it's going to
Yeah.
be, end of story. But and I found too, and just to go on to your point, with a lot of fixed blade broadheads, I've had to vein match just because it's the only way I can get them to tune. And I tune for a living. Like that's my job is to tune. But with your broadhead, I don't have to. Like I screw it on and it goes. Like I'm not pushing you. Like I've shot your
Yeah.
broadheads for a couple weeks. We had no prior conversation before this. Like
No,
I'm
we
just
didn't.
I'm just going by experience. Like I throw your broadhead on it, and even my son, he's 9 years old. He shoots a Matthews Prima, and he shoots a three fletch Silent Night vein. And we threw the 100 grain four finger broadhead on there from you guys, and boom, right there with the field point. So if
Yeah.
your bow's tuned, you don't have a problem. And I see that the negative impact, and I'm guilty of it. Like I've gone on the record in this podcast, you can go back with different broadheads that we've used, is that I wasn't a fan of fixed blade just because I'm lazy, right? Like I was our other co-host Troy, I bought a dialed sight, right? Just because he shoots dialed, and I wanted to try it. It looks cool, whatever. I got a really good deal on it. I was like, I'm going to buy it, whatever. So I've shot Trophy Ridge forever. I was a pro shooter for them for years. The React technology is awesome, right? You just adjust it and boom, it gives you all your pins that you need. Right. So now I'm sitting there and I'm like, I was texting with Cedric. I'm like, man, this seems like a lot more work than I'm ready to do. Right. Like I got to sight in at 20. I got to sight in at 60. Then what does this extra pin do down here? It's all the way at the bottom. Like there's so much more that goes into it. Right. And he's like, you're just being lazy. I'm like, you are 100% right. I'm being lazy. So that was always my thing, is I just want shoot field points, throw my broadhead on and go hunting. I don't have to worry about it. It's going to hit the same thing. But we finally found a broadhead that's fixed blade that gives us the impact we want and gives me the trajectory and the point of impact that's exactly the same. So that there has to be something said by that one piece solid production that you all have in order to hit that. Like there's no air going into different seams, right? There's nothing to offset it, or one blade may be a millimeter off. Like it's there. And I mean, I don't have a complaint with it right now.
Well, I appreciate the kind words, first of all,
Yeah.
on the product. But I mean, really what that comes down to is the compactness of weight.
Yeah.
Um, and being square. If your broadhead isn't square, your inserts aren't square, nothing's gonna fly. Well, no fixed blade's ever gonna fly.
Yeah. The
And I've
cut of
heard
your
that many
arrow in the
times.
front.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. And I've heard it many times, like never get a fixed blade to shoot until we shot yours. And that's where the whole, we make the most forgiving fixed blade on the market. But the truth of the matter is that if your bow is perfectly set up, and I like to say we don't tune a bow, we set up a bow, we tune our arrows, because you cut 1/8 of an inch off your arrow, you're changing its dynamic spine. And that is something that I dive into a lot here. I run every arrow I build, I run it through a software to make sure that I'm building an arrow for my bow, like mathematically perfect for my bow. And I found that if you do that and you have a square end of your arrow, broadheads that spin, any fixed blade will fly. We make ones for everybody because that's a ton of work. Like you said, it is a lot of work. I love that work. Some people don't. Um, but that I think that spine matching is such an underlooked thing or
Hmm.
overlooked thing.
Yeah. I see it all the time in the shop, man. People come in and it's a couple days before the season. They're like, "Oh, I need new arrows," and you're just like, "Oh man, like, come on." It starts with the arrow, man. Like, it's like, yeah, you got a bow, but you got to build your bow around that arrow, and that arrow's got to understand your bow, and there's a lot that goes into it, and people just don't understand that. So, do your local archery shop a favor and yourself a favor, like there's so much research, there's so much information out there on the internet, right? Like there's so many calculators out there. Like take your bow weight, take your draw length, see what it recommends. Like all the arrow, you know products out there, they have those calculators of what spine you should use and why. Like don't just grab your grandfather's arrows or your son's arrows because they were there and you needed it, and then God forbid you wound something or you complain that the bow's not right. Well, it has to be a perfect harmony. There has to be a harmony there between your bow and your arrow. Like that's just the truth. So spend that extra time. What software are you using for
I
yours?
use Archer's Advantage. I
Okay,
think
yeah, I've
I've
heard of
just
that.
never had a problem with it. There's a lot of good ones out there. But the truth is if you're not running your arrow build, your hypothetical arrow build through a software before you build it, you are taking a gamble to an extent.
Oh yeah.
You're not it's a shot in the dark, and you're probably, unless you're extremely lucky, you're not going to have an arrow that's perfect for your bow. And you might have one that's very close. Overspine typically is better than underspined because arrows break down over time.
Amen.
But if you're underspined in the first place, that's where, these people who are say, I can never get a fixed blade to shoot out of my setup. Well, you're probably underspined. You might be way overspined, but you just, letting a pro shop just, okay, here's your arrows, cut them off. That's a complete gamble.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, hey, like I said in our last podcast, my 9-year-old son rips through some arrows on that arrow saw sometimes, and you're lucky you get what you get at that point. But no, it's you got to teach them at some point there. But no, you're 100% right. I mean, there's a lot that goes into it, and um, I will say, there's doing this research ahead of time in the off season and making that dedication to a broadhead, to a bow that you're going to use, and then to an arrow that's going to then, project that point through what you have, is doing that research is it's second to none. It's going to help you in so many ways, especially in the frustration point of out there on the range trying to sight in, and all of a sudden you jump back to 60 yards and your arrow's bailing left, for whatever reason. Well, there's many reasons that can happen, and you could have solved that by doing a little bit of homework there. um but yeah, I mean, it's definitely something that takes a little time, and I think people overlook it. I honestly do. I see it every day. I really do. I mean, I saw it today. Like, oh, I got, 33, 32-inch arrows at home that I've had for 10 years. Like, I'm just gonna shoot that. Okay. If you want to, go ahead. Like, we'll see what happens. But that's good for you.
Yeah, we owe it to the animals, man. We owe it to the animals we hunt to put in, if you can make yourself 1% better in any way, you should do it.
Yeah.
I'm a huge believer in that.
Yeah. I also think that that's the difference in rifle hunting, like not hardcore rifle hunting, but a rifle hunter into going into a bow hunter. I see it a lot is, you have your grandfather's 30-06 sitting in there. You throw a 30-06 cartridge in there, it hits a 2-inch square at 100 yards, you're good, right? You go. So they think they could do the same thing with the bow. They grab their bow, they grab whatever arrows lying around, they put their broadhead on it, boom, it hits a 3-inch circle or a pie plate, they're good. They're going to go out there. But then, it's a little windy one day, or it's colder than it was when you sighted in, or it's damper, or there's a headwind, or whatever. Like, there's a hardcore rifle hunters, like my cousin's a long range shooter. Like, he understands all that. So when he gets into archery, he's like, it can't be this easy. There has to be more to it. Like, I gotta think more. And then I think the everyday person is just, throwing a cartridge in their gun and going out there hunting. They're doing the same thing with an arrow and a broadhead. They're throwing it on there. They're going out there hunting and they're hoping for the best, where they need to do a little bit of that research and that math and that understanding of their product.
Oh yeah, man. Like I had a family member this past year, never had anything to do with hunting except know that I do it. And like archery is my life. That's all they know that, but they've never had anything to do with it. And they said, we want to try it this year. We'll get a bow and we're gonna go bow hunting with you. And I'm like, that's a big ask. Like it's just not that simple,
Yeah.
You can't it's not like taking someone fishing, right?
That's like it's like going running with Cameron Haynes. Like, I'm just gonna catch up to you, bud. Let's go.
Yeah, let's just go. Yeah. Yeah, no, I like to, I just did a beginner series on my YouTube channel, like tips for getting into bow hunting and getting into archery. And one of the big things that I talked about was I think if you're just looking to get into bow hunting from scratch, learn archery and learn rifle hunting as two distinct disciplines, and then you'll learn them at the same time. You'll see where the bow's place in hunting is as you learn the fundamentals of hunting without throwing yourself in the deep end of the pool.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, it's awesome. Because yeah, it's all that, like you guys have been saying. I like to sit back. Paul knows that I'll sit back and I don't say much for a little while, and then I'll chime in here and there. But it's all those little fine points. And I know I grew up rifle hunting in Kansas. I didn't touch a bow until I moved here to Ohio, and my father-in-law got me into bow hunting. Oh, it's been 7 or 8 years ago now. So that's all I've been into now for 7, 8 years. But all those little fine points that you learn, in a tree stand when you miss that buck that comes through, or you're out here and you're shooting in your backyard or wherever, and you just can't get them to group the way you want, and then you do the exact same thing a day later and you're hitting arrows. So there's all those fine points that you have to learn over time. Like you said, you can't just, you can take someone fishing, you can take someone to go do those things, but just to take someone bow hunting, like, yeah, they can come watch, they can sit with me. But as far as to pick up a compound bow or any kind of bow for that matter and make a clean, ethical kill, there's a ton of luck involved if they do it right away.
Yeah, and to some extent, I think there's luck for all of us. I mean, once that arrow leaves your bow, it's your job is done. That animal can jump the string, take a step. Like I do believe any perfect bow hunt, there's an element of luck that went
Oh,
into
for
it.
sure.
Oh, yeah.
For sure.
Oh yeah. Absolutely. I agree with that one 100%.
And
more
yeah,
often
you
than
can
not,
have
bad luck.
everything. Yeah, and you can have everything. Yeah, so just going down that road too. You can have everything perfect. You could be the best archer in the world, and just for whatever reason, they don't fall in the right spot that day. You know what I mean? There's just enough wind, or just a little twig you didn't see, or the animal hears it and string jumps you, like you said. So
String jumping is my worst nightmare, man.
Yeah.
My absolute worst nightmare.
Yep.
The worst I've seen was Coues deer in Mexico. That's what this is. It looks like just a teeny little deer.
Oh no, it's a
Mhm.
giant.
Which it is. It is, but it's Pope and Young Coues deer. They're so
Yeah.
small you can throw it over your shoulder, right? Those things are unbelievably skittish. Like I wear a lot of fleece when I hunt because it's so quiet.
I do
I
too.
couldn't wear anything. I had to be down to literally my underwear when I shot that thing because any movement they could hear the material in my jacket or my shirt rubbing together. It was unbelievable. And then
Yeah.
that thing at 26 yards jumped the string so hard I hit it off like 8 inches, killed it. But it's just unbelievable, and there's nothing you can do about that.
No, they're just
Wow.
they're pretty edgy, those deer.
Yeah, that's. I mean, even whitetail deer here up a few years ago in Alberta. I was shooting lower poundage for a few years because I was nursing a shoulder injury, and I shot at a whitetail doe out of my tree stand at 29 yards, and she belly to the floor, completely ducked that arrow and got out of the way.
Yep.
Like, how
I've
do they
seen
do
it
that?
like 6 inches deep in the ground, their hoof prints just like dipping down, but and I also believe there's ways to prevent that, from the vein you use to the broadhead you use to the speed of your bow, your arrow setup. I think there's ways to go about that. You're always going to get dropped. There's always going to be a deer. They're just so intuitive. They can hear things from miles away. Like there's nothing you can do to stop it, but there's ways that you can get better at that with it. But there's some deer, man, that are just, I have a doe around here. She's got to be 9 years old, and she knows your ass is there before you're even there. Like she could be 100 yards away, and she's like, uh-oh,
All came out of the house. Time to
Paul's
hide.
here today. Gotta go. But we
Yeah,
all,
they're not all like, you can't just generalize. Like, in general, whitetails are more jumpy than mule deers, but I think there's a big
yeah,
genetic factor to it. Certain
it's pressure
lineages of
too.
them.
You
Yeah,
know,
pressure for
you
sure.
don't know how many times that deer was shot at. You don't know how many
No.
times a mountain lion jumped at that deer, or a bobcat tried to grab it by the ass, or whatever. Like, you don't know what happened to that deer in its life. So, it can just be testy. So who knows?
Well, here's an interesting topic we could dive into is on that topic is aiming low.
Mhm.
I have such a hard time. I've thought about it lots, sitting in the blind or the tree stand, thinking about it, right? Am I going to do it? Am I going to do it? And I never can
I can't
because,
do it.
right?
Yeah.
It's like cheering for your team to lose so you get a better draft pick. It's like, I can't do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, that's funny. So, funny story with that. We were out in Illinois, me, my dad, my family, big hunters, my whole family. We all try to go at least like once every 5 or 6 years on a hunt. So we went out to Illinois, and um we were getting dropped off at our stands and I was always last. And this time I was like, let's break the stigma of this. We haven't been seeing much. Like, okay, dad, you go to the stand, I'll go, to the next one. And of course, 198, almost 200-inch deer, double drop tine, big like black ball over here comes out for my dad at 32 yards, right? So he's a big proponent of aiming slightly low. So he always puts it on the heart, whatever he's doing. Well, this deer had no clue, nothing what was going on. And he just shot right under it. Like, if he would have dropped like half an inch, it would have been a perfect heart shot. But like, just barely skimmed the bottom of it and just trotted away, and watched the biggest deer he'll ever see in his life run away. So like, there's times where I get it, and I'm with you. It is hard, man. Like, I'm a center of the double lungs, like center mass shooter. Like, let's put it in there and go. To aim lower than I want is like, I don't know what's gonna happen here. And then some people swear by it. So, I mean, Troy, what do you think
I
about that?
I I lean towards I try. I mean, just for my experiences here in Ohio, that's the only place that, well, I shot a buck in Virginia. Now that was my first out of Ohio deer that I harvested with a bow. But all the does I've shot here, all the bucks and everything, I I wouldn't necessarily say I aim for the heart or anything like that, but I am a fan. I think my personal experience is anything over 25, that 30-yard window for me. I aim low, but I don't ever aim off the animal, obviously. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
that's kind of in the back of my mind, and I'm always aiming for my exit. And I need to try out these toothed arrows because I hate to say it, but I have not got a pass through yet. I've harvested a handful of deer here in Ohio, that even that buck there in Virginia, I put it through the animal, but it stuck in that offside leg and
Yeah.
broke off. So, I mean, I guess technically it was a pass through, if you will, but the arrow didn't completely go all the way through. So, you
Yeah.
want both those open wounds so the blood will come out and give you a nice trail. But as far as the aiming goes, The farthest I shot a white-tailed doe here she was at like 42 yards, and I put it right on her belly line, not off of the deer, but right on her belly line, because I just knew that as soon as I shot, she was going to drop, like we talked about, and she dropped right into it, and so it was
Nice.
perfect. But and even that buck in Virginia, the videotape of him,
He
I
drops.
he drops and he dropped right into the pocket. I mean,
Yeah.
it was a great, knock on wood, it was a great shot. All those things lined up, but I have a hard time, and I think I do it worse with rifles for whatever reason. I don't know if it's the distance or if it's just my head. Like as a little kid, I can remember like with iron sights, like, okay, I think it's that far, doing the old Kentucky windage and shooting, and then missing and shooting again and missing and shooting again. So I think now it's ingrained in my head. I don't ever aim off of the animal. So high, low, left, right, whatever it has to be, but aim for the exit with archery for me, and on the animal.
Yeah, aim for the exit's a good point. I like that. You gotta visualize your shots three-dimensionally. You know, I put up a lot of on Tooth of the Arrows Instagram, like the shot grid, like pick your shot,
Right.
A5 or whatever. And there's a lot of people. I did one that was a cougar in a tree, like you're way below it, and there's a ton of people aiming like brisket on that thing, which is or slightly higher than brisket, which is great because you're going up through it. There's a lot of people who are thinking about it like you're shooting downwards out of a tree stand and aiming, top of that animal. And so I think that that's not thought about enough. Think
No.
about your shots three-dimensionally. But I really like to aim, if you look at the anatomy, center of the vitals, give yourself that best room margin of error for them to drop or for you to make a bad shot. And I think sometimes people aim a little too far behind the shoulders. I really like that crease, but that crease is scary, particularly with
Well,
mechanicals is why
Yeah.
I shoot fixed
yeah.
blades. Hit
There's a
that.
void there too, where you
Yeah.
tuck right against that shoulder and their arms fully extended forward. You can go right through them and not kill them.
It's a scary thing, man. But I like the fixed blades because if you do, I like to cheat forward on my shots, more like you'd shoot them with a rifle. But if you do make that too far forward shot, I like a fixed blade that I know is going to still get through, or at least as far into the vitals as I can.
Yeah.
And I just looking at your broadheads prior to, maybe this is a good time you can talk about that, being able to punch through, doing a little looking at them, the different weights that you guys have. The broadhead doesn't change size or anything. So how do you guys change the weight, from 100 grain to 125 to 150 with the same, cut diameter and everything else? How does that work with your one piece of steel?
It's all in the ferrule. So if you compare, the best example is to look at the 100 grain S Series XL versus the 175. If you put those pictures side by side, you can see it's just the ferrule is built out more. And on that note, the heavier you go with our broadheads, at least, the more accurate they get in the sense that they become more like a field point. The weight centeredness, the percentage just goes up and up and up as you go higher in weight. So, I mean, I shoot 100 grain, but I like to tell people when their arrow spines for 150 or 175, I say, well, that's actually really good for you because you're going to have a screaming accurate broadhead.
Right. Because all that weight's center mass.
Yeah. More and more like a field point. I mean, that's why mechanicals fly perfect, right? And field points fly perfect. There's no weight beyond that line of that arrow shaft that's steering them.
Absolutely.
Cool.
Absolutely.
And
That's a
that's where
great
my
point.
thing against aluminum and broadheads comes in. There's broadheads out there that have an aluminum ferrule but big steel blades, and they do that so that they can create wide cut diameter fixed blade broadheads. But when you do that, you're taking, I mean, aluminum's way lighter than steel. You're taking all of your weight away from the center of the arrow shaft. That's just not gonna work unless your stuff is so dialed and your arrows have been through the software and everything. Man, it's gonna be hard to get some of those things to fly.
Yeah.
Nice.
No, I agree. And I like the point of you all putting the weight towards the center of that ferrule, like a field point. You see a lot of companies, it's, their blades get thicker or they get longer, wider, or their tips get thicker, and then if you compare their center mass, that's exactly the same. So that's pretty good engineering there out there, just from a bow tech, little old bow tech like myself, put it in the center of the arrow and, send it home. So that's pretty awesome. Pretty sweet. So Troy, I'll send you out a pack or two of these tooth of the arrow broadheads for you to try.
Yeah, definitely.
I bought 4 or 5 of them just to try different weights and everything like that. So I'll send you some out there so you can try them out and see what you think of them.
Awesome.
We're doing a whole broadhead research this year and seeing what we're going to go with come September once we hit off elk season and bear season. We got a big bear hunt coming on as well. So right now we're loving your products and what you have to offer. It's definitely, and I got a good. We shoot different bows every day. We shoot hundreds of arrows. I have a shop. My son's 9 years old, so from me to him to everybody else that comes in, we have a good variety of people, and they've been extremely consistent, probably more consistent than anything else. So kudos to you all in the development of that broadhead and it out there. And I mean, we've put it, same broadhead into a target, like I said before, hundreds of times, and it's still razor sharp. So, and I know you offer the sharpening tool as well on your site that gives you the exact angle and everything you need. But so feel free to look at that and pick that up for yourselves if you need it.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it, man. And anyone out there who's just gonna try out tooth the arrow for the first time, my only word of advice is don't shoot the same spot.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yep. I've already shaved a bunch of fletchings off. My son as well. And Dad, you got to refletch my arrows. Okay, I got it. The good thing is it cuts them nice and clean and sharp, so you can, you don't have any of that jagged edge on there. So really nice. All right, Troy, you got anything else here for Leigh and Tooth of the Arrow?
No, it's been great. And look forward to seeing the new products coming out and some more awesome stories from either Canada or where real quick, where's your next big hunt planned? Is it up there around there? Or are you gonna go somewhere?
Yeah, I'm doing a fly-in moose hunt in northern Alberta here this year.
Awesome.
10 days totally off grid, and I got a buddy with a plane, so he's excited to dump us in the middle of nowhere.
Does he make you jump out?
I hope so. It'd be fun. Parachuting trip and a moose hunt.
Yeah.
But then I'm doing axis deer in Hawaii as well. So those are my next 2 that I've got planned here.
Nice. Well, if you ever want to come to little old Virginia and shoot some whitetails and some black bear, give me a ring. You're more than welcome to come down. We got good accommodations, some great hunting, and you're more than welcome anytime that you want. So.
No, I appreciate it, man. I love bear hunting. I was a bear guide for a year. I love bear hunting.
Well, we got plenty of them, so we'll get that done. I got a couple pictures last year. We had 2 of them. One was a female, one was a male. They had to be between 700 and 800 pounds. I mean, they were the size of Volkswagen Beetles coming through the woods. I mean, just massive. But yeah, we got some good ones down here. So if you ever want to come down, don't hesitate to reach out. So.
Oh, it's awesome. I appreciate it. And I appreciate you guys having me. It was fun.
Oh, absolutely, man. Well, Tooth of the Arrow here. We got Leigh. Thank you all for coming on. We appreciate it greatly. Check them out. They're on Instagram, Facebook. You can buy them pretty much anywhere, but direct from their website. Great products. They come super quick too. I think I had mine in 2 days. So great job there with the production and shipping. So very convenient. Appreciate it. Be careful when you open the package. They're razor sharp. Trust me, I know that. And thank you all for listening. We'll catch you next week.